Good morning, everybody. It is week 16. Happy holidays to everyone. Jameson, how you doing, buddy? Happy holidays to you and yours.
I appreciate it. You as well. I am doing good. Uh, Slate is a little goofy. For those out
It's
there, if you're in
awful.
the,
It's
it's very
terrible.
hard to get through. We're gonna pray on it and get you guys through it. But if you are in the semifinals of your fantasy football playoffs, if you're sweating best ball, we are thinking about you today. Hope you persevere and get through. I know there's a lot of excitement, especially this time of the year. We still got DFS. We're gonna get through it. It's a lot of very obvious plays, and there's some not so obvious, but I think we're going to get through this together and try to squeak out some winners here.
Yeah, I wrote in the article this week that this is a terrible slate. I mean, if it wasn't for DFS, if it wasn't for fantasy, nobody would be watching football today. I mean, there's
Yep.
one game between two teams that are in the playoffs right now. There's one game, and that's Philadelphia, Washington. There's one game between Minnesota and Seattle, where it's one team that's in and one team that has a decent chance. The rest is nobody is. I mean, yeah, obviously basically the entire AFC playoff picture played on Thursday and Saturday, so that kind of affects it. But today's a terrible slate of games, so we need DFS.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's really no reason to watch football today, and we have to watch football. So let's get to it. DK and FanDuel did not do us any favors this week. Pricing is tight. I mean, it is really tight this week.
Yep.
It's brutal. So it's week 2 of your fantasy playoffs, but we got DFS going. We got 7 early games, 4 late games, and then the Sunday night game on FanDuel. Let's start in Chicago, where the Detroit Lions are visiting for a division game. Total on this one is 47.5. Detroit is a 6.5 point favorite. So an implied total of 27 for the Lions and 20.5 for the Bears. No David Montgomery this week. More defensive injuries for the Lions. How are you feeling about this one, Jameson?
Well, just if you're playing cash, it's obviously going to be Jameer Gibbs. If you're playing GPPs, it's are you playing Jameer Gibbs? So we've spent like the entire year salivating if one of these guys went down, what would happen to the other. Well, we're going to see it today. So Jameer Gibbs ends up getting the nod with David Montgomery, who might return to the playoffs. On the other side, we've got some really weird. It's because of pricing, but DJ Moore, Keenan Allen on Thanksgiving both went off against this, Lions defense that's just gotten worse over the last month due to injuries. Seems like that's going to be chalk. I've seen a lot of Caleb Williams play. Not sure if I totally agree with that after watching, some of these games where he doesn't get a first down in the first half, and now we're going to jam him in and put 2 wide receivers next to him and play him. Seems a little goofy to me. The one thing I do want to talk about here, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now that the Lions have all these injuries, I think Amon-Ra is going to be another guy who ends up under him just like it was last week going up against the Bills. 8,600. Everybody on this slate is going to pay up for running back, and I get it. You get James Conner, you get Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, Chase Brown, these alphas, and I totally understand that, but just because you are going to do it doesn't mean everybody else is going to do it too. So a way to kind of get different is play through Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think Jared Goff can quietly cook today. And I don't think anybody's going to play him because if you're playing those running backs, everything gets very concentrated into one direction. And that's kind of the problem. So you're obviously going to be playing Jameer Gibbs. I'm going to mix and match in tournaments today. I'm not going to totally fade him. But I mean, if you get 50% of the field playing him in tournaments and say he gets hurt or doesn't get there, I mean, you've got so much leverage on the field. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to put all your eggs in that basket. So I get it. I'm going to try to sneak in some Amon-Ra if I can, but it just gets really hard. But I'm going to definitely be underweight on this Bears offensive trio that seems like I've tried to play every week and it just hasn't happened. So I'm retiring from it.
Never works.
No, I'm getting very frustrated. I'm getting tired of it.
I hear you, man. I'm in the same boat. I've been picking one of those guys every week, and it just never pays off. So I'm getting a little frustrated on the Bears. Here's the angle I like in this game, and this I wrote in the article. Like, I love Brock Bowers this week, but with pricing so tight, it's really tough to pay up for tight end. I love Sam Laporte in this game. I think he's getting how much more volume can Jameer Gibbs realistically handle? Like, he can't take Montgomery's entire role. I think Laporte is going to be the one who ends up picking up most of the slack. Had a monster game last week, had about 10 targets, 7 catches for like 110 yards or something like that.
Yep.
And that was in the first game with Montgomery being hurt. So I think I think he's back to being a major part of this offense. 4,700 on DK. I think he's like 6,000 on FanDuel. He's the tight end I'm leaning to this week because, like I said, I would love to play Bowers, but man, it's really tough to pay up a tight end. So he's my preferred option if I need to pay down a little bit, and I think he's a smash play this week.
Yeah, it's especially with these tight ends because all these other tight ends are in like really nice spots too. So it feels like you're going to have to mix and match, and I don't think anybody's going to play Laporta, who's got the ceiling and he's cheaper than all of these guys. The one other person we didn't talk about is Jameson Williams. 6,100 over on FanDuel, and then over on DraftKings, he ends up being 5,500. He ends up in that range of this mid-tier wide receiver, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Um, it just gets a little goofy here. So it's, Brian Thomas is going to get a lot of ownership. Jacoby Myers, Jawan Jennings, like this sort of tier. We know that, Jameson Williams can have a monster game too. So I think nobody's going to play him because they'd rather play those other chalkier pieces. Like I said, Jared Goff's been really good this year. Obviously last week, once David Montgomery got hurt, you saw him start kind of chuck it. They got in a kind of goofy game
Yeah.
script. I don't think that they're just going to rely on Jahmyr Gibbs to run it like they have with Montgomery. Obviously, he's going to get a lot of work. That's not what I'm saying, but I don't think they're going to go in and pound the rock with Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think that's really the name of his game. So if they lean into Jared Goff, I think you can get into some Jared Goff doubles that won't get owned. And then if you want to bring it back with like Keenan Allen or DJ Moore, I guess that's fine. I don't understand the Caleb Williams chalk, and it's doesn't make sense. But if you guys want to play that, more power to you. I'll pray for you. But I just because it happened on Thanksgiving and you can be thankful for it doesn't mean it's going to happen a week before Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how it gets there, right? But like this team has looked absolutely atrocious the last 2 weeks. And you're talking that the blowout game in San Francisco, they looked just dead on Monday night against the Vikings. So,
Yep.
yeah, and no disrespect to the Vikings, they absolutely won that game, but the Bears just look like they would rather be anywhere else. Maybe some home cooking will fix that, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm very nervous about going very heavily into the Bears this week. I I get it with the Detroit injuries, but yeah, I've tried it so many times it just hasn't worked. So I'm ready to, to spit that bit. All right, let's move on. Next game, we have the Los Angeles Rams traveling across country for an early game against the Jets. Rams are 3-point favorites on the road with a 46.5-point total. So the implied totals are 24.75 for the Rams, 21.75 for the Jets. You've got Aaron Rodgers, the new documentary star in this game, has had a couple back-to-back 300-yard games after not having one since the Carter administration. And then wide receiver special with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson all in play this week. So how are you going about this one?
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could play Puka and Cooper Cup together and not play Matthew Stafford with it. No, that sounds weird, but like Puka and Cooper Cup both get there, and then Matthew Stafford gets like 20, which is fine. But there's some other quarterbacks that could break the slate if that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to have a bring back of Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams, gets very expensive really quick. But Devontae Adams, 41 points. Like this production last month's been hard to ignore now that him and Rodgers have been on the same page. But I mean, they were playing lackluster defense. It's not. I mean, going up against Jared Verse, like that's a totally different ball game. So I do want to check Garrett Wilson 7,100. Don't think he's going to get clicked this week. Um, and then the one guy I do want to talk about is Kyron Williams, who has the ceiling out of all these other running backs that are going to get played. Nobody's going to play Kyron Williams today. They're going to play James Conner, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to play Jace Brown. And then, probably some Rico Dowdle. Nobody's going to play Kyron Williams. If the Rams just, bludgeon the Jets, I know the Jets looked good last week, but, it's still Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I don't want to give them too much credit. I could see a game where the Rams just kind of sit on the ball and Kyron Williams just goes for 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. I think that's totally possible today. Nobody's going to play him. So that's, it's hard to get to. Like every piece of this game is very expensive, and I don't think a lot of people are going to play it. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff on this slate that I'm trying to get to and trying to fit in. It's just very hard because we'll talk about Patrick Taylor, but you're going to play him. Probably going to play like Jalen Coker as a cheap, and it just gets very thin very fast when you try to pay up for some of these guys. So in a perfect world, I'd love to play Cup and Nakua, but I probably would play just one of these wide receivers as a one-off, or play Kyron Williams by himself.
Yeah, I think you nailed the Kyron Williams call in that, and you brought it up earlier. Like everyone's going to be on the same couple, 4 or 5 running backs this week, and you're going to have to differentiate yourself somewhere. And I think Kyron Williams is a really good place to do it because I think he's in a great spot. I think the Jets defense is bad, and I think he's super contrarian, right? Because everyone's going to be on Puka, they're going to be on Cup on the, not the squeaky wheel narrative necessarily, but I mean he put up a 0 last week, so I think they're going to want to get him involved. Devontae, Garrett Wilson. I think everyone's going to try and play this game through the receivers, and I think Kyron's a really good way to get contrarian and to kind of differentiate your running backs a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So, I'm not going to get into the Aaron Rodgers doubles. I don't know if people try to chase that. I think most people just try to play the one off. I don't think this is the matchup for it. I talked a month ago about the Rams possibly winning the NFC West. Seems like it's coming to fruition. This is a game that the Rams need to win, and I don't think that that's something they're going to kind of screw around about. And I know they went off last week. I still don't think the Jets are good, and I'm not going to believe it. So I'm going to ignore it and go along with something else.
I agree with you. I do not think the Jets are good either. We had a question from Chris Bird. Happy holidays to you. Appreciate you checking out the show. Drew Lock or Mac Jones is your second QB.
I'm going to go McCorkle against the Raiders. They're missing Christian Wilkins. They're missing Max Crosby. Coach is incompetent. Mac Jones, if he could hit the deep ball, like we saw Brian Thomas Jr. and Brenton Strange kind of get there last week, like Brian Thomas Jr. would be the alpha if he could just hit on the deep balls. But I'm going to go Mac Jones. I think he's been more competent than Drew Lock. Drew Lock's been really bad. I mean, like, unwatchable bad. I know a lot of people thought he can outplay Daniel Jones, but it's just I'm going to go Mac Jones. He's got a better matchup. I actually think Mac Jones is kind of interesting today.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like Drew Lock had a game a couple weeks ago against the Saints where it should have been a great matchup and just couldn't do literally anything. They scored 9 points or whatever it was. They were terrible. So yeah, I can't imagine starting Drew Lock. Much rather start Mac Jones in that one. Appreciate the question. Let's move on to the next game. That is the Cardinals and the Panthers. Arizona on the road here. Another West Coast team going east is a 5-point favorite, 47-point total in this one. So 26 implied for the Cardinals, 21 for Carolina. This game is all about Mr. James Conner. I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, no DeMarcado. Is Trey? There's somebody else. Trey Benson
is out. I don't know
out.
if he went on IR or not, but he's definitely out this week. Yep.
So, and that kind of leads into the bid as well. I still don't trust the Cardinals. I think I'm going to try to play Kyler doubles. I know, and get like super duper contrarian because the Panthers can't stop anything. I know the matchup is good on the ground, and I know they're going to run through James Conner, but pass rate over expectation has bumped up a little bit for the Cardinals over the last month or so. They talked about Trey McBride. They have tried every which way to get him in the touchdown. I think they're going to have to put him on a forklift and just drive him through people to get there at this point. But I hope it's the week. I really hope it's the week that Trey McBride scores the touchdown. On the other side, Chuba Hubbard's honestly in a really good matchup too. No Xavier Legette. So you get the cokehead Jalen Coker and Adam Thielen, who for whatever reason didn't get a lot of play last week. Like it seems like he was playing part-time. I expect him to be on the field more this week with Xavier Legette out. And I would honestly play Thielen as a bringback if you're playing like any James Conner stuff. He's cheap, kind of opens up some stuff. I'm fine with either Coker or Adam Thielen. Coker is 5,200 on FanDuel, 4,200 on DraftKings, and then for Adam Thielen, he is 5,600 on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, I believe it's 6,200. Yeah, so cheap wide receivers that can kind of get there against the Cardinals defense. This Cardinals team, really tough to figure out. I don't think they're good, and I totally get that it's James Conner week, and I'll be playing some of them. But I'm honestly trying to play around it. Like if I could play like a Kyler double and get off of that, I think it's viable. He's going to get played. He's probably going to smash, but it just how high is the ceiling for James Conner compared to Chase Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, even say like Kyron Williams if he goes for 102 touchdowns. I get that James Conner is a smash play, but when everybody's playing him, Like my mindset is always going to see if I can get around it some way, and I think I'm going to do that with Kyler today.
Yeah, I wrote up Coker in the article this week. He was questionable coming into the weekend. Sounds like he's going to play.
Yep.
Popped up with a quad injury or something like that. He is. We talked about salaries really tight. He's about as far down as I can get on the wide receiver side and still be a little bit comfortable. Now, a lot of that, a lot of his production last week, he had a really good game last week, but a lot of that production came on one big play. I think it was like a 75-yard pass, touchdown pass. But I mean, at that price range, that's all you're looking for is the possibility that you can do something like that you can put up one big play and kind of salvage your day and pay off your salary. So obviously he's got that ability. So yeah, I do like that somewhat. All right, it's rant time.
All right, let's hear it.
I've lost all confidence in Drew Petzing as an offensive coordinator. I mean,
frustrating.
You're literally you're trying to get Trey McBride a touchdown, and the best you can come up with is like a little inside shovel pass. That's the best you've got. You're copying Andy Reid from 6 years ago with Travis Kelce. That's the best you've got. I mean, I could sit here and like think of like 5 different better plays that would open him up for a touchdown at the 2-yard line, and that's the best you've got is an inside shovel pass. Oh my god! So I've just lost confidence in Trey McBride ever scoring a touchdown because his offensive coordinator is not good enough to get him that touchdown. So it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's Drew Petzing's fault. He should be a run game coordinator. He should never be an offensive coordinator again. I get what you're saying, trying to get there with Kyler and say off James Conner, but I don't trust this passing game in any way whatsoever. I can't. Like yes, McBride is going to get volume. He's going to get catches, but they're not going to score any passing touchdowns. And that's why I'm out on Kyler altogether right now because I just don't see this passing offense working. I think Drew Petzing cannot call a passing offense, and it's not working right now. So I'm out of. I love Connor this week, and I'm entirely out on the Cardinals passing game altogether.
I think that's very fair. And like I said, I'm not trying to talk people off James Conner. Just when we get on slates like this where everybody's chalk, like I'm just trying to find ways.
He is super chalk. Yeah, you need to differentiate yourself somehow.
I mean, yeah. So, but I understand the Kyler stuff. The other part about the Kyler thing is like this quarterback slate. We're gonna get to some of them. Like it gets very expensive very quick, and then you got Kyler in the middle, and then you're stuck like playing like Cooper Rush if you're on FanDuel. So it just going up against the Panthers. Can he get there? Yeah. Is he tall enough to see everything? Probably not. So it just like I said, I think people are going to try to get to this game. Overall, I'd probably just take a piece or two and kind of move around it. But I was trying to mess around with some Kyler stuff, and then Trey McBride real quick before we get off of that. He will have a better chance of having a 300-yard game than he will scoring a touchdown. That is just that is scientific fact. But I really do think this today ends up in this top 6 of tight ends and which one you're probably picking. So unless you're playing Hunter Henry, who has been the talk of the town every week on this show, or like Brenton Strange, like one of these guys, they're all in good matchups. One of these guys is just going to absolutely bury you. And if you are that far behind and you're not making up ground elsewhere, it just gets really tough. So Trey McBride, Bowers, Kittle, Jonnu Smith, now that Waddle's out, Laporta, Hutchison against Seattle, which is interesting. I just think that one of these guys is going to like just destroy the slate today. So
yeah, I do not think you can mess around in the bottom of the tight end pool. I'm agreeing with you 100% on that one. You need to be in that top 6, 7, maybe down to Hunter Henry, but that's as far down as I'm willing to go.
Yeah, and that just depends on how the rest of your salary on the team goes. So that's kind of where I'm going to live today. I like Trey McBride. I've played him a lot this year. If he scored a touchdown, I'd probably be a millionaire. I'd probably split it with you, but I'm not going to. So it just I don't know. We'll get to it. We got some other games too, and we'll talk about some of these other tight ends.
Yep. Yeah, it's I've been on McBride all year too, and it's just crazy frustrating. So, all right, let's move on before my blood pressure gets too high. It's the holidays. I don't want to die of a heart attack on stream. Browns and Bengals. The Browns inexplicably going with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. What are we doing? 46.5 point total in this one. Browns 9.5 point road underdogs. 18.5 point implied total. It's just a joke. Cincinnati with a 28-point implied total. This is one of those terrible games I was talking about. Bengals do have a live shot to get to the playoffs. They just have to win their last three, including this one, beat Denver next week, and then Denver has to lose to the Chiefs. And they have to win their last game, which is against Pittsburgh, I think, who may have nothing to play for at that point. So, like, the Bengals are absolutely live to make the playoffs right now. They're still an underdog, but they've got a shot. So, how are you playing this one?
Yeah, if you can afford the Joe Burrow double, it's just hit every single week. Last week is kind of goofy against Tennessee, like they destroyed him, but somehow Burrow doesn't get there. Chase Brown's going to be one of these guys. Ever since he's gotten the full time role, he's behind like only Saquon Barkley as far as points go. So I mean, he ends up this guy that just set it and forget it. 24, 21, 17, 16, 17, 27. I mean, it is hard to see him fail going up against the Browns defense that's really susceptible to the deep ball. Like I could see Jamar Chase just absolutely going scorched earth today. T. Higgins is in a great spot. I know a lot of people have T. Higgins fatigue. I can still stomach it, and I have no problem. If you can afford it, you probably can't do all three. You probably can't do Brown, Higgins, and Chase with Burrow. You might be able to do one of the wide receivers and Chase Brown, or if you just want to do the double, I think that's fine because Bengals have to win. On the other side, I was considering Jerome Ford. Last time he played, like they had Deonta Foreman in there. He's probably more of a DraftKings play than a FanDuel play. Let me check his price real quick. 6,600. He broke off the long run last week, but Bengals defense is astronomically bad. But it just kind of hard to get there. I think he is more of a DraftKings play than he is a FanDuel play where they lean into touchdowns more. But other than that, I don't think any of the wide receivers for the Browns are playable. DTR has been one of the worst quarterbacks, like Nathan Peterman, bad without the interceptions. Like all he does is yards per throw is like point 0.1. He doesn't push the ball. He's not good. None of these none of these wide receivers going to catch anything, even going up against this Bengals defense. So I don't think you have to have a bring back or anything to go with it on the Browns side because I think DTR just plummets the value on this Browns offense.
Yes. I don't know if Jameis Winston kicked Kevin Stefanski's dog, if he knocked up his daughter. I don't know. But, like, yeah, I mean, Jameis is not a good NFL quarterback. Yeah, fantasy players overrate him. He's a terrible NFL quarterback. I get it. But Dorian Thompson is worse. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is worse. He's been worse than Deshaun Watson when he's played for the Browns. So you cannot justify this move in any way other than to just punish Jameis Winston. So I get it, but you've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not an NFL caliber quarterback. The Cincinnati Bengals defense will be in every single one of my DFS lineups this week. Every single one. I know the Bengals are a terrible defense. I don't care. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not an NFL quarterback, and I am going to start the Bengals defense against him in every single one of my DFS lineups this week.
Yeah, it's ugly. The only thing I would say, I don't know I think we'll find out here probably within the hour if David Njoku's playing. Makes it, I don't really want to play him, like I said, talk about the rest of these tight ends, but I mean, the Bengals defense has been the worst of all time, and I think they're still startable. The problem is, their price is low, like 3,300 on DraftKings. They're one of the higher end defenses, and then over on FanDuel, like 4,400. Like that's a lot to pay. I love Trey Hendrickson. Think he's awesome. Like the rest of that Bengals defense, just an abomination.
It's bad. So it's bad. It's entirely a DTR bet. Yeah, it's 100% against DTR.
I think that's a bet I'd be willing to make as well. If you want to do like Bengals defense anytime touchdown, but like getting to this pricing stuff, Falcons is going to be a lot of chalk if you can get $4,000. Titans against Indy after which I want to talk about the Colts here in a little bit. I got some stuff I need to say about them.
Ooh, nice.
But the Jaguars, Raiders, like that's probably where I'm leaning this week. I think the Falcons are going to be super chalk, but getting different. If you got the money to pay up for Bengals defense, I think that's very viable.
100%. All right. Question from Ben Moore. Appreciate you checking out the show. Good morning to you. Need a big comeback. Bench 1. A.J. Brown, Kyron Williams, or Brian Thomas Jr. Wow. That's brutal.
Jeez. Oh, boy. I would. Jeez. Awkward silence as I try to go through this juggernaut. I love Brian Thomas Jr. We did this last week. We talked about like benching AJ Brown for somebody else. I think it was like Lad McConkey, and then AJ Brown
Yeah.
gets like the squeaky uh, wheel narrative. I almost feel like you got to play your studs in AJ Brown, Kyron Williams, but I mean Brian Thomas Jr. has been like a top 10 wide receiver all year long. So I if there's any info, like if you're playing any other running backs, I guess they'd have to be monstrous to be benching Kyron Williams. But
Yeah,
I guess it,
no
I
doubt.
guess it'd be AJ Brown and Kyron Williams, and then oh man, I think that's where I would go. But I'd feel pretty sick benching Brian Thomas Jr. though. As the we've had before you answer, we've had a lot of like questions that kind of make me lose my breath. That is the hardest thing I think you will ever have to go through, Ben, in your life trying to answer this. So I think I'll just play the studs. But Brian Thomas Jr. has been one of the best studs of all this year.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is I'd love to see the rest of your team if this is the
Yeah,
choice you have to make at bench. And the second thing I would have to say is I'd like to see the other team if you need a big comeback with this group. So
right.
um, I guess you could have had it, but obviously there's a bunch of guys who've already played this week. Herbert, Lamar Jackson, who've had pretty big weeks. So I get it, but I'm going to bench Kyron here. Just if you need to come back, I'm taking the two highest upside guys, and that's AJ Brown and Brian Thomas Jr. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to feel good about it, and I'm going to wonder what the rest of your running back group is if you have to bench Kyron Williams.
Yeah. If you can update us on your team, maybe like we can talk through it. But what? How in the hell do you need a big comeback with that loaded team? But
I can see needing a comeback because we've had 3 games already. But yeah, wow, this
but
is just,
nobody outside like Derrick Henry and Herbert, like nobody else really went off. So
yeah, that's true.
um,
Maybe he's
that's
playing against Gus Edwards.
oh Jesus. Anyways, Ben, if you can update us on the rest of your team, I'd love to see it, and maybe we can talk through this and figure out a different angle for you. Because I would hate to bench those three this week.
Yeah, I agree. That is rough. That's an awesome
If you
stack.
if you if you have any players to share, please let me know. I'm in quarterfinals with like a team that's held up by duct
Exactly.
tape. So
Yeah, a lot of my teams in the playoffs would love to have whoever you're benching to be able to start. All right, let's move on to the Falcons hosting the Giants. It is Michael Penix's debut week. Lots to talk to you about this one. The Giants are 9-point road underdogs, 42.5 point total in this one. 16.75 implied total for the Giants, which is just absolutely embarrassing. Nice job, Drew Lock. 25 3/4 for Atlanta. Which Falcons are you starting this week? Because there's going to be a lot that you're going to want to start. And are you starting Michael Penix?
I'm interested in them. I hope that people aren't as interested as I am. I think Michael Penix, when like just kind of talking through it, Michael Penix is kind of like Kirk Cousins. Like he's gonna do like the 3-step drop back and he's just gonna throw missiles. I liked Michael Penix. I thought he was good. Coming from like Indiana, I know he's an older prospect, so everybody hates it, but he elevated 3 wide receivers. He goes up against the Giants defense that is another just this team is just so ready for the season to be over. They've been counting down week 18 since like week 2 this year. But Penix, I think this really helps Darnell Mooney. Like Penix is going to take some shots. He's going to have some deep ball stuff. Drake London is a great spot too. Got to talk about Bijan Robinson, who I think is another one of these running backs who will go a little bit underlooked, who will absolutely break the slate. It is very weird. A rookie quarterback who has never played a game as a 9-point favorite says a lot about how bad the Giants are. So, um, I honestly like I have no problem pairing Bijan and like one of the wide receivers with Penix, and I think it's viable. Like I would rather play Penix over honestly like Mac Jones, AOC, like some of those other guys people might get to. But I was also higher on Penix coming out of the draft, even though I thought the draft spot was a little goofy. But I do like Penix today. I think his wide receivers are viable too. So, and I think those guys will go under owned.
Yeah, this is sunk cost fallacy at its finest, right? The mistake the Falcons made was signing Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles to that big contract. That was the mistake, not drafting Penix. So, yeah, and the right thing to do for the Falcons right now is to start Michael Penix and to just move on. You got to move past that mistake. I wrote Penix up in the article this week. He's my QB start of the week. You're going to need to save salary somewhere. As much as I want to start Josh Allen, I can't afford it this week. Salaries are too tight, so I'm going down to Penix. I think he's going to. Now, I am very concerned that this just becomes a Bijan game. You hit it. It's I mean, they could just lean on Bijan and Algier in this game and just run over the Giants. That is a concern, but I think they're going to want to get some action on. I get Penix some work in, right? They're not just going to let him hand off the entire time. They've committed to him for the rest of the season. They want to get him going. They're going to want to get him some live reps. So, and I think this is a Giants defense that you can actually absolutely pick on. It's going to be indoors, so it's a good environment to do so. I love Drake London this week. I love Mooney. I like Mooney late this week, like you said. I'm a little concerned about Mooney if it does become a Bijan game. Like, do they have to take the deep shots? I think he's the one who could kind of get squeezed out there. I think Kyle Pitts is in play if you're super desperate. I mean, I'm not. Ooh. I'm just saying, if you're super desperate and you don't trust Hunter Henry, then I think he's in play and you need to go way far down on the salaries. I'm nervous. I'm not doing it myself. I'm just saying I could see someone doing it. But, I think Penix opens this offense up. I'm excited for the Falcons. So, I'm starting to cut Penix in a lot of my lineups this week.
Yeah, I think Penix can easily get 15 points.
I
get the Kyle
and that's
Pitts
all you
play.
Need to pay off that salary.
I get the Kyle Pitts play. I don't want to get anybody on like a drug addiction having to play Kyle Pitts and having to stomach that. With all due respect, because Kyle Pitts just been god awful, but
he's been terrible.
Just with Penix though, like I said, I think a lot of the stuff's going to be the same from Kirk Cousins. He tests really well athletically, but he likes to stay in the pocket, and it's kind of like Anthony Richardson. Everybody thinks of him as a runner. They do the design runs, but honestly, his first instinct is to attempt to play quarterback from the pocket. Penix does. I really do think, especially over the middle, he'll be able to hand it off to Bijan and Tyler Algier, who I think is kind of sneaky. Something that Kirk Cousins can't even do at the moment. But Penix can grip it and rip it. I think he's going to push the ball downfield. I don't think this is one of these quarterbacks. We see some of these guys that come in, they play scared, a lot of check downs, that just boring ass, you have a shot in the NFL and you're just going to be really conservative about it. I think Penix is going to try to rip it. And during this week, he's going to have some ownership. I'd probably suspect around 10, 15%. I'm fine with. I think he can get 15. And, they're still in the playoffs, so they need to get him to figure out how to throw the football in the NFL. But I do think Bijan is really fun tournament play. He's a little pricey. I don't think anybody's going to pay $8,900 for it.
I was surprised by that price.
When you can pay up for James Conner, Gibbs, that rest of that crew. But I think Bijan is in an awesome spot too. Going up against the Giants, I know Neighbor, the Falcons defense sucks. I'm not playing Neighbors. I'm not playing Tyrone Tracy. Maybe on DraftKings because you're getting full PPR and they just get targets. But on FanDuel, I do not think they are viable options this week.
No, Tracy, I'm kind of falling out of love with Tyrone Tracy because he's been fumbling too much. They're not giving him the goal line work. You saw it last week. Singletary got a touchdown, and then he got another goal line carry. He's going to have to fix that before I think he gets Daboll's trust. So, I'm out on Tracy. But, I agree with you. I do kind of like Neighbors on DK because he's going to get volume. It's not going to be good volume, but I think there will be some volume there. So, I think he's in play. All right. Let's hit up some questions here. We got one from Wyatt Bowles. Thank you for checking out the show. Jerome Ford or Tyreek Hill?
Without Waddle, I'm going to lean Tyreek Hill. I know it's not been great, but Jerome Ford, I just can't do it. I'm going to lean Tyreek.
I agree. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson just tanks that entire offense. I'm going with Tyreek as well. Our buddy Albert, thank you for checking out the show. We appreciate it. He's got a question. Pick 2 half PPR, Devonta Smith, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings.
It's another tough question.
I know.
I like Juwan Jennings a lot this week. I like the 49ers stuff a lot. We'll get to that in a little bit. Jordan Addison has just been obliterating Earth at the moment, so it's really hard to bench him. Devonta Smith has had a really good game last week. He has not done much the rest of the season. They get in a game against the Commanders today where I think both teams will kind of have to push it. Maybe. So I'm leaning Addison and Jennings here. I've man. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play Addison and Jennings, but I think you could obviously make the case for Devonta Smith. I want to look up his stats, but yeah, I'm gonna lean Addison and Jennings.
I'm definitely starting Jennings. Love him this week. I'm going to start Devonta over Addison just because I think that game shoots out. I think that game's. I know it doesn't probably project that high, but I think that game's gonna be an absolute shootout. If you look at the two games we'll talk about this in a minute. If you look at the two games those teams played last week, they were both just massive shootouts. So I think we're gonna get there again. I don't think that first game they played is gonna be indicative of how this game is gonna go. So I'm taking Jennings and Devonta in this one, but it's definitely close. You're right. Addison has been an absolute monster, but a little bit of a tough matchup this week. Seattle's pass defense is pretty good.
Yeah, Seattle's defense has been getting a little goofy, and we'll get to that game in a minute because I think that's pretty interesting too. But it seems like we both like Jawan Jennings a lot this week.
I do. Yep, very much. And then our buddy Bob Dole. Love you all. Thank you all for the help. Always thank you for checking out the show every week. We appreciate you checking in, and happy holidays to you and yours.
Love you, Bob Dole.
Yep, appreciate it every week. All right, let's hit the Colts and the Titans. It's the last game of the early slate. Let's see here. Tennessee is on the road as a 3.5-point underdog. Total in this one is 42.5. So an implied total of 23 for the Colts and 19.5 for the Titans.
I hate this Colts team. I hate Chris Ballard. I hate Jonathan Taylor. Leader of the team, fumbles on the goal line, comes out all snarky. Just got paid because he's a leader. He's a chode. I'm so sick and tired. I live in Indiana. I'm embarrassed that the Colts are in this state. I'm so sick of Chris Ballard. Every year, he drafts all these players because they got the cool RAS score and they got the athletic traits. Can't catch football. Adonai Mitchell, breaks every chart known to man. He can't catch football. He's been one of the worst wide receiver rookies. He makes Jalen Polk look competent. And then he comes out because, he throws the backwards pass to Benito and the pick six. This Colts team is
that was embarrassing. That was bad.
I don't want to kick everybody off the stream and start cussing, but I'm just so sick and damn tired of this Colts team. Gus Bradley, his time came up 5 years ago. I've spent 16 weeks talking about him on this stream. I know people are tired of hearing about him. He sucks. Couldn't generate pressure if, it was the last thing ever on earth that he needed to do. I'm sick of it. Mason Rudolph probably going to go for 5 touchdowns, 500 yards today. I'm so sick of this Colts team. They are an embarrassment. Instead of, I know there's rebuilds. I think they should just cut everybody and start over. New owner,
nice.
New head coach. Get rid of everybody. Just do a fire sale. And move them out of Lucas Oil. Move them to Canada or something. I'm tired of them. But I guess we do have to talk about it. It seems like I'm just sick of it, and I feel like I'm behaving very well right now. But Tony Pollard is in. We saw Tajay Spears. I can't even focus on this, but Tajay Spears had the cool touchdown last week. Titans probably put up 40 on this Colts team. It's not good analysis, but I don't think I'm playing anything from this game. I feel very bad for Anthony Richardson. They threw him under the bus because he took a breather after he defended 5 people off his back. And they treat him like a criminal. But, Adonai Mitchell couldn't catch a ball if he had stickum on his hands. Jonathan Taylor can't score a touchdown if his life depended on it. Michael Pittman, key drops. He's supposed to be – they paid him like an alpha. He can't do anything. Just tired of it. But I'm not playing anything from this game.
That was an impressive rant. I love it.
That was me behaving too. I'm sick of it. We do this every damn week. I can't stand Chris Ballard. I would hit him in the head with a steel chair if I could. I'm just tired of it. I think he sucks.
You gonna take him out in the parking lot and break his arm?
Yeah, whatever I need to do. The arrogance They go on ESPN and talk about all his high level draft picks. He traded back. He traded back. You know, he took Anthony Richardson, but he was comfortable with Will Levis too. You imagine him with Will Levis? That'd be even
Oof.
worse than Anthony Richardson. So,
Oof.
Josh Downs, I think he's fine, but the rest of this, I think the only thing interesting would be one of these running backs for the Titans. Like Tony Pollard has quietly been good. It's a great matchup for him. If Tajay Spears got the run that he did last week, like Tony Pollard didn't practice this week. He hasn't practiced like all week in a while because he's got an ankle injury, and then he plays on Sunday. I think one of these running backs could be like one of these guys that get in the box twice, end up cheaper, kind of pay down option at running back. But the Calvin Ridley, I've done that for like a month. I can't do it anymore. I don't have much interest in this game.
I'm a little afraid that Taylor's just going to go off this week, and I'm a little bit afraid, not super afraid, a little bit. I agree. I think Tajay Spears is in play if Pollard's injury is kind of worse than they're letting on. He hasn't practiced all week, like you said. And Tajay Spears did look pretty good last week. So I agree with you. I think he could be a pay down option in a week when you need some pay down option. So I think he's in play as that. But yeah, there's not much in this game I'm super interested in. I'm afraid of Taylor going off especially against because Tennessee's given up. They're terrible. Joe Burrow handed them 2 interceptions last week and they couldn't even play with the Bengals. So that team is just brutal. They're starting Mason Rudolph. It's a joke. He's not as bad as Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but he's pretty close. I mean, he's just a career backup. So not much. I don't think anything in this game is going to break the slate. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be scared of Jonathan Taylor just because he's going to drop the ball on the goal line. So he's not going to score touchdowns. He's not going to catch balls. It just nothing to be afraid about. I wouldn't be scared. And if he breaks the slate, he can show up to my house and apologize to me personally for what he's done to this great state of Indiana.
There you go.
So just tired of him. Just tired of him. Next game, please. Now my heart rate's going up, and I'm going to have a heart attack on the stream. So.
All right, we got a question from Miggy. Michael Penix passing under. So I'm looking at DraftKings right now. They've got 225 passing yards at minus 115. So I'll assume that's his line.
I'm not comfortable. I honestly think he can throw over. So he's probably going to get a deep ball in today. That's kind of the name of the game. I understand if they get ahead and they just run the ball with Algier and Bijan. But 225, Penix chucked it in college. This is not a Anthony Richardson
a deep ball
type
thrower too.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I would probably stay away from this line, but I do think that he can actually hit the over at 225. Michael Penix is good. He's got the wide receivers to do it. Ray McLeod, a guy we didn't talk about, I wouldn't say necessarily in play, but I mean, he'll get some work as well. I'm not comfortable hitting the under here. Not saying, honestly, if I would lean anything, I would lean the over, but I probably wouldn't play this line in general.
I agree in that. And if you look at, I'm just looking at DraftKings numbers here, they've got 250, over 250 at plus 170 and over 275 at plus 330. That's really good value for, 25 and 50 yards over what his nominal rate is. I agree. I can definitely see it happening, right? I can see it being a Bijan game. He just doesn't have to throw very much. They just, they get a Drew Lock interception. They get out from the jump, and this game, they don't have to throw very much. I can absolutely see that happening, right? But from the way I bet, just the kind of value betting, it's just moved. It just went 225 plus, just went to minus 120. So a little bit of movement there. Yeah, 250. So somebody's betting this line up because it just moved. 250 just went to plus 155. 275 just went to plus 310. So somebody's betting Michael Penix right now. Probably betting him pretty heavy. So they're betting the over. So I feel like that's sharp money coming in. So I'm going to stay away from the under. I can see how it happens, but I'm not going to bet that number.
I agree. I understand the thought process, but it just I think both of us are higher on Michael Penix than a lot of people are.
I'm very high on Michael Penix. And we've gotten the reports that that they love him in practice, that he's doing the things that they want to see. So I think he's going to be very good. All right, let's move on to let's start the late games with Minnesota and Seattle. 42 and a half point total in this one. Minnesota is a 3-point road favorite, so 22.75 is their implied total. Seattle at 19.75. I think there's a lot to like in this game.
Yeah, this game's going to go one of these that are under the radar. I believe that we get Kenneth Walker back. Have you seen anything about Zach Charbonnet if he's in or not?
I have not. I think we're gonna.
I
I think Walker's expected to play. I haven't heard anything on Charbonnet.
Yeah, so he's 6,300 on DraftKings. I believe he's 7K on FanDuel. I think he's one of these running backs that's kind of interesting. I know that Minnesota has been really good against the run and very susceptible against the pass. Problem with Geno Smith, I know Geno Smith has been very good under pressure. The reason is because the interior offensive line for the Seahawks has been awful. I mean, god awful.
They were brutal on Sunday night.
Yeah, like if honestly, if Sam Howell was to play today, which I know he's not, I would pay up for Vikings defense everywhere.
Oh God, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like that's how. I mean, a lot of credit for Geno Smith. I think a lot of that goes unnoticed for the way he's been able to move around the pocket. I don't think Geno Smith is ever viable as a quarterback on these slates, but I do think his wide receivers are. Metcalf and JSN are both pretty decent prices. 6K on DraftKings. Metcalf is cheaper at 5,500, and then on FanDuel they're in that 7K range. So I like both of them. I think I'd rather just play one instead of both. But let me check real quick. 7,900 on FanDuel for JSN. A little spicy for my taste, but and then Metcalf 7,500. So Justin Jefferson on the other side is not going to get played. We've seen these games from Sam Darnold. I know Seahawks defense has gotten a lot better over the last month, but we've also seen Addison, JSN, and Hutchison kind of get there. The one thing, Aaron Jones is going to go underplayed as well. He ends up in this little cheaper tier, but he gets that same volume, 7,500 on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings he ends up 6,400.
I love JSN this week. He was my wide receiver right up in the article. Vikings are batting his slot receivers. He gets basically all of his snaps in the slot right now, and he gets a lot of slot snaps. So I think he's going to be an absolute smash in this game. So yeah, now again, if Sam Howell plays, just throw it out. Never mind. It doesn't matter because Sam Howell is absolutely atrocious. But and they're like their offensive line was terrible on Sunday night. I mean, just brutal. They give up 7 sacks to the Packers, who can't generate pass rush if their life depended on it. So they're going to have to throw quick, right? And I think Jay said, I don't think there's going to be time for deep developing DK Metcalf routes. So I think they're going to have to throw quick. They're going to have to throw underneath, and that's JSN's game. So I think this game script and this opponent just matches up for him perfectly. And that's, yeah, I do like Aaron Jones because the Seahawks run defense looked pretty bad. I mean, Josh Jacobs was just absolutely running through them. They did not look good the other night. But, my concern for Aaron Jones in DFS is the Vikings are treating him like the Packers did, and that they're just they will not give him a full workload. We're seeing just way too much Cam Akers for my taste. Yeah. So I'm really afraid that, so you're not getting you just don't get if they kind of blow him out narrative, he's going to get a ton of work because he's not. They're going to give it to Cam Akers and kind of save him for the playoffs. So I don't disagree with that philosophy, but it's just not good for DFS.
Yeah, the problem with this game, and there's a couple other games like this. The game environments are probably good. The players just end up so expensive that you're going to avoid the massive guys who have these much bigger ceilings. Like if you're playing the Darnold double with Jefferson, Addison, or with Hutchinson, you can't afford any of the running backs. You end up playing Ramondre Stevenson, and you're probably putting at Patrick Taylor, hoping he gets 10 points. We'll get to here in a little bit, but and it just it gets very thin very fast. So this game, the Eagles and Commanders game that we'll talk about here, these are good game environments, but the players you basically have to get a one-off if you're going to play it because you can't afford to do the full-on game stack without totally tanking the rest of your lineup, and just the margin of error gets so thin, especially on FanDuel. I know DraftKings has some Like there's you play double tight end and do that sort of thing, but like FanDuel just gets very hard to play this game. This game's going to go underplayed. I don't think anybody's going to play it this week.
Yeah, and yeah, pricing is just so tight. It's really tough to do anything kind of strategic in this environment. And like you said, I'd be interested in doing like a Geno double with Metcalf and JSN or something like that, and then bring back Aaron Jones. But you just can't do it price wise. It's
Yeah.
just way too tight this week. So or like Hutchison, I think is in play, but he's been so inconsistent with his volume. Like Addison's getting a bunch of it. You just don't know if it's an Addison week or a Hutchinson week or how it's going to play out, or if teams are just going to concentrate on Jefferson, he's going to get taken out. It's really tough to trust Hutchinson in that way. So I'd much rather play Laporta. So all right, let's move on to. I guess I forgot. I thought the Philly Washington was a late game. It's actually an early game, so that's my bad.
Well,
So let's get that one out of the way.
I might have screwed it up as well, but
It's all
anyways,
good. It's all good.
we'll get to it. That's another one of these games, just like the Vikings and Seahawks, where it's fun but it's very pricey.
Yeah. So again, this is the only game this week between two teams, or only game on the slate between two teams who have a realistic and likely chance of making the playoffs. 46.5 point total in this game. Philly is a 4 point road favorite. 25.25 is their implied total. Washington is 21.25.
Yeah, this finally saw the Jalen Hurts double get there. It's very pricey. Jalen Hurts ends up at the second priciest guy on the slate. Like last two games, getting 24 and 28 points. It's tough to kind of try to figure this game out. Like if you were to play it, I believe Zach Ertz is going to be in this week. I know he had a concussion, but if you do
Sounds
like,
like he's gonna. Sounds like he's likely to play. Yes.
so you get AJ Brown at 8,700, you get Devonta Smith at 7,600. I don't think anybody's playing Saquon this week. It ends up a decent matchup for him because I don't really trust this Commanders defense. If you bring it back, you're either going to play Zach Ertz and avoid all the top tight ends that we've talked about, or you're going to play Terry McLaurin, who's another really expensive guy, 8K. So you're basically playing four players that are, 8K or more, and it just gets very pricey very quick. So I've tried to make some Jalen double lineups and with McLaurin, but it gets very hard to do. So I don't think anybody's playing Saquon this week. Wasn't good last week. I know a lot of people are really hurt by that, especially in the playoffs. But he played Washington, had 35 points. So he's one of these guys. Like if everybody's going to pay up for James Conner and all that stuff. If you have 700 or more and pay up for Saquon, and he bludgeons the rest of the field and has like a nuclear game, I think that's definitely viable. I don't think anybody's playing Saquon. I think he's going to go sub 5%. I think he's a great spot again today.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people just kind of leaning away from this game because of the game they played earlier in the season. It was a Thursday night game, right? And was super low scoring at halftime, and then Philly just kind of took over from there. But yeah, I'm like, this is a division game. You don't usually see those division games kind of play out the same way each time, and usually one becomes pretty high scoring. I know Philly's defense is really good. I get it, but I think this game's going to shoot. If you look at the games these two teams played last year, they were both just massive shootouts. So yeah, I kind of like the Philly passing game under the radar. I do like McLaurin this week as well because I think him and I know they had a bad game against Philly last time, but I think you get some home cooking this time. You get the rematch. They know what's going on. I like McLaurin to kind of bounce back and have a pretty big game. And I like Jane Daniels as well. If you don't want to kind of pay out for the elites, if you don't want to pay up for Josh Allen, don't want to pay up for Jalen Hurts, it's tough to do that, man. Pricing is tight this week. It's tough to pay up a quarterback. So I don't know. Jaden Daniels is still a top tier quarterback, but he's not at the top with Hurts, and uh, he's not quite as high as Hurts and Josh Allen are.
Yeah. And I've got, honestly, a lot of beef with this Commanders offense. Watching them last week, had my eye on them going up against the Saints. Like the first half, they should have like broke the slate, and it pissed me off so bad. I played Brian Robinson, played Jaden Daniels and McLaurin, and they just kind of goofed off. And I'm very worried that the Eagles come out and just kind of beat the dog shit out of them today. Like the way that they played the second half last week, I just like I hope this game shoots out, but I could see like a scenario where Saquon goes off yet again. Eagles defense just kind of smothers Jaden Daniels because like first half was awesome for the Commanders. They had some missed opportunities to score points, and then the second half they look like Mason Rudolph led Titans offense. Like that's how bad it was. And I don't get it. It's a Cliff Kingsbury thing. I need to have a talk with him. But I think talking through this stuff, I think I'm gonna try to see if I can smash Saquon in at his ownership. I know his price is going to be astronomical, but it just I think the Eagles just kind of lay the hammer on the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are very good. I get the point for Jane Daniels and stuff, and maybe he can push him some, but I just kind of worry about the Commanders after what I saw the second half last week because it was just brutal.
I think that was a classic, like take your foot off the gas kind of scenario, and that they had a big lead. Spencer Rattler was coming in. Jake Haener was terrible, predictably, and Spencer Rattler came in like, we got this in the bag. Let's kind of rest up, can ease off, and get ready for Philly next week. That was a classic look ahead spot. So yeah, I think you're happy to get a win there, no matter how you get it. So I'm not too worried about that. But I'm much more worried about the quality of the Philly offense. And yeah, I love Barkley this week. I've got a ton of him in best ball because like early in the week, I was getting a bunch of one picks before we got the news of the Montgomery injury. So I was taking Barkley there. So I got a lot of Barkley in best ball this week. So hoping for that to go off. But yeah, man, it's just so hard. It's just so hard to put him in a DFS lineup because, I mean, how much better is he going to be than James Conner or Gibbs? And he's just so much more expensive than those guys.
Yeah, that's the problem. It just gets very pricey, which has been the theme of this entire show, this entire slate today. It's like, what can you afford? Obviously, not much.
Exactly. All right. Question from our friend Gary Van Dyke, the IDP tipster. You want to flex Travis Etienne or Ray McLeod?
Neither personally, but
I go talk to Ben Moore and get trade for whoever he doesn't have to start this week.
I think it's Etienne. I don't want to say it's a safer floor because Etienne's not been good, but he's got a really good matchup against, which we'll talk about here in a minute, going up against the Raiders. But yeah, because it's the RB. He's not an RB1; he's RB half. And then Ray McLeod is like wide receiver 3. I think it's Etienne.
I agree. Yeah, I can't trust McLeod when Etienne's got that matchup against the Raiders. So we talked about being able to go off for one big play. I think Etienne could go off for that one big play, and that could just be enough to carry you over what Ray McLeod is going to do. So yeah, I would start Etienne, but I'm not going to feel good about it.
Yeah, it's thoughts and prayers go out to you, Gary. That's what you need today.
Yep. All right. Before we go on to our next game, it is football season. It is playoff season, and we are thrilled for our partnership with Expedia. It's time for the playoffs. That means a trip to see your favorite team on the road, right? The Packers probably going to go to Tampa Bay. So if you need a flight to Tampa, you need to rent a car in LA for that deal with that traffic. You need a hotel in Philly. Go to idpplus.com/Expedia and build the best package to travel to your big game. So thank you to Expedia. Let's move on to the next game. That is the Patriots and the Bills. This is just absolutely disgusting. 46.5-point total. The Bills are 14-point favorites at home in this one. New England has a 16.25 implied total. Something to say when you have a lower implied total than Drew Lock. Buffalo has a 30.25. That's the highest of the slate this week. Are you paying up for Josh Allen? That's the only question in this game.
I think on FanDuel Cash, I'm going to try to. I think Hunter Henry's going to get played a lot, especially on FanDuel, which I think is fine. The Bills stuff, I've not been able to figure out all year. So it's just like James Cook. But they've got like a 3-headed backfield now. They got Ray Davis, and they just plug and play some other guys, and they've all been good. And so it's just really tough to kind of figure out. I think James Cook ends up one of these running backs who could totally smash in a game flow. You worry about the other stuff, but like if they get ahead, it's probably because of James Cook. So I think he's fun and interesting. Other than that, like if you could pay up for Josh Allen, I think it's fine. Not sure if he needs to get to 40. I don't think this is the spot for him. I mean, I think the Bills will score 40 points, but just really hard. Like Amari Cooper has stunk. Matt Collins not wearing any shoes. He's not been great. Keon Coleman. It's just like, I don't know. Dalton Kincaid stinks. Dawson Knox, So it just Josh Allen. I like James Cook a lot. I think he's probably my player pool, one of these underrated running backs who can kind of break the slate too. But other than that, I just don't have much else on this game.
James Cook is the third highest running back on FanDuel on the slate.
Yep.
Seriously? That's
Yep.
crazy.
Hell yeah, he is.
I mean, yeah, I like him this week, but Matt, you saw 2 weeks ago he put up 4 points. Seriously,
Yep.
that's the third highest guy in the slate. You're going to start him above James Conner and Jahmyr Gibbs? I can't do it, man. I can't. I like him this week, but I can't do it. That just feels wrong. So yeah, if I'm playing and like the guys I like, I think there's guys to like on the Bills offense. Like Shakir, Kincaid, like the New England defense is super vulnerable in the middle of the field. So I think those guys are in play, but it's like, how much are they going to need to throw in this game?
They're not going to.
It's got a 16.25 implied total. I mean, yeah, it could be just a eat clock and just hand the ball off to Ty Johnson kind of game. So yeah, if I'm playing Allen, I'm probably playing him naked, and I'm okay with that. Because I just don't know. Obviously, some other guys from this Bills offense are going to get there. I'm just not comfortable trying to predict which ones they are.
Yeah, it just you're just throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping something hits. So
Right.
like, I mean, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson are both getting like 10 points the last 2 games. So it just can't even pick that one right. I couldn't give you the analysis of which running back two would go off.
Right.
Probably, if you want to pay down, I think they're probably fair to get you 10 points. Like I do think that those guys will be in second half to kind of get there.
Yeah, again, I don't want to crap on James Cook. I think he's a really good play this week, but it's like he's the third highest priced guy in the slate. That's crazy. I'm really not comfortable playing Allen this week either. I don't think I'm going to have him in any of my lineups. It's just I know he's been nuclear the last 2 weeks, but again, I don't think he's going to run a lot this week because I don't think he's going to have to. Like they could get out to a 2 touchdown lead and they're just eat clock, like I said with Ty Johnson and Bray Davis. So. Yeah, it scares me to have to kind of pay as much as you need to pay for Josh Allen because that game script could just get really wonky and not wonky, but just very easily script him out of the game where he just never has to throw, he never has to run. They just turn around, hand the ball off, and just kind of run this game out. So, yeah, really tough for me to pay out for Allen this week.
Yeah, just this game kind of gets goofy, and like I said, this Bills team this entire year has just been hard to figure out as far as trying to get somebody from it.
And guess what? We get the same game again in 2 weeks. Great job, NFL schedule makers. Awesome work.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, excellent work. All right, let's move on to this is kind of a fun game, even though it's a terrible game to watch, completely meaningless, but should be fun for fantasy. The Jacksonville Jaguars are in Las Vegas to play the Raiders or hit the slots, hit the casinos, maybe get a hooker here and there. I don't know. 41-point total in this one. Jacksonville is a 2-point favorite, or a 2-point underdog, on the road. So their implied total is 19.5. Raiders is 21.5. I think there's some fun stuff in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, and with the way this kind of slate goes, I think both quarterbacks are in play. Aiden O'Connell going up against the Jaguars defense, one of the worst, giving the Bengals a run for the money as one of the worst defenses of the year. So you get Brock Bowers, who ends up in this tier of top guys who, especially with AOC back, I think that really benefits him a lot. Because Desmond Ritter just sucks astronomical amounts of ass. He's just an abomination to the quarterback position. Jacoby Myers ends up fine too. I think he's going to get some play. And then on the other side, it's Brian Thomas Jr., who's just certified G and a bona fide stud, and you just can't teach that. But
you cannot.
30, 12, 16, 11. If he can hit on the deep ball, like if McCorkle could just hit one, he will end up like a top 5 wide receiver the way he's getting volume right now. 7,300 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he ends up 6,300. I'm going to try to play him this week. I'm going to try to play a lot of them. I know a lot of people are too. Gary asked a question about ETN. I don't love it. If there's a spot for both of these like running backs, so like ETN, and then on the other side, it's Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah. Like, they're okay as punt plays. Let me check ETN's price here. 5,800 on DraftKings, and then on
That's basically a
FanDuel,
Ramondre Stevenson level.
yeah, 6,300. I don't love it, but like if there's a spot for it to happen, like this would be it. So, um, and then Brendan Strange as tight end. If you're going to punt down, it's going to be him or Hunter Henry. So Strange has been pretty good in light of Evan Ingram being gone.
Yeah, I think we should probably just name 5,800 the Ramondre Stevenson level for running backs.
Yeah, that's his bread and butter right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I love Brian Thomas Jr. Absolutely love him in this game. He's one of my favorite best ball plays this week. So, yeah, I like him quite a bit. Amir Abdullah is my preferred running back paydown this week just because I think he's going to get pass volume, especially with Sincere McCormick out. And I can't believe I'm saying those words, but I think he'll get targeted in the passing game. So better DK play than FanDuel, but if you need a running back pay down, and I feel like you need to pay down for somebody this week, Abdullah is my preferred play.
I think I'd lean Abdullah over Madison as well. It seems like coaching staff kind of hates Alexander Madison, but it's also the Raiders, so you don't want to put too much stock in it.
Correct.
Like I feel like I'm just trying to pick a piece or two out of this game and kind of move on. I think a lot of people are going to play Myers and BTJ this week.
Yeah, I agree. I would rather pay down for Abdullah because I say you got to save salary somewhere, and I'm kind of comfortable with this pass game volume. So that's really all you can hope for at this point. All right, let's move on to the final game of the late slate. That is the San Francisco 49ers at the Miami Dolphins. 44.5 is the total in this one. Niners are 2-point road favorites. That's bet down or bet up, I guess, from this game opened as a pick 'em, and now the Niners are 2-point favorites. So interesting there. The other interesting thing here is that the total has not moved. The total has stayed at 44.5. It's just all the money is coming in on the Niners. So that's interesting. 23.25 implied total for San Francisco, 21.25 for Miami. Obviously, the Miami passing game should be in play here without Jalen Waddle. But how are you going about hitting the 49ers?
Yeah. No Penguin today. I'm honestly really interested in the Big Cock Brock double today with Juwan Jennings
Nice.
and George Kittle. I love George Kittle today. I know that everybody's going to play Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. George Kittle's going to be the one for me. So 7,600 on FanDuel. DraftKings, he ends up right in that tier, 6,000. Everybody's going to play these two guys. They're going to get ownership. Nobody plays George Kittle. Nobody enjoys playing George Kittle. He has been on a tear this year outside of like one game. So 20, 14, 27, 24, 10. Like out of the tight end stuff where Brock Bowers, I know he's been good, but he's also had some duds. 6, 8, 33, 7. And then Trey McBride, if he were to ever score a touchdown, we had that conversation earlier. But I love George Kittle today. That's one of the ways I'm trying to get different. On the other side, I guess DraftKings, kind of hard to pay for both of them, but double tight end. Jonnu Smith with Waddle out will end up being really good. He's been awesome too. He's like in this realm, especially with Waddle out. Malik Washington is a pretty fun punt tight end, the rookie. It's a whopping 5'8", but he's got a little bit of juice to him. 3,700 on DraftKings. He's 4,500 on FanDuel, I believe. 6 targets last week. And then the conversation for Devon Achane getting dump-offs. I haven't seen the report yet, but I think the Dolphins will be without a couple offensive linemen, which doesn't help too at all. So kind of the quick game stuff. The last guy we didn't talk about, Tyreek Hill, I'm not playing him. I've done retired from doing that. 6,900 on DraftKings, like it's fine. I'd rather go elsewhere, but I get it. And then Juwan Jennings will have some ownership too. He's another guy I like a lot today.
Tyreek's fat. He put on too much weight. He lost his speed. I mean, I get why people are going there without Waddle, but he just hasn't been good, right? His floor has been non-existent. He just did nothing last week against Houston. Some of that was Tua throwing a bunch of picks, but yeah, the floor is just really scary with him, especially against a good San Francisco secondary. So yeah, I would much rather play. If I'm going to play this game, I'd rather play HN or Jonnu. If I'm going to play the Dolphins passing game, and then Yeah, I agree. I love Jawan Jennings this week. I think he's a smash play, and I do like Purdy. I like the Purdy Jawan Jennings stack. I mean, Miami's technically in it, but it doesn't feel like it, right?
No.
It feels like they're kind of giving up, especially. I mean, they looked just terrible last week. Tua looked brutal, so a little nervous about that. So, yeah, I'm kind of leaning away from the Dolphins in general.
Yeah.
Just the Niners
That's
are rested. They came coming off the Thursday game, so a little scared about this one.
yeah, and I'm gonna ignore the Thursday night divisional rivalry game in the rain. Like I know a lot of people
Oh
are gonna
yeah,
put a lot
yeah.
of
I'm not worried
so
about that.
I'd give a shit less. But Patrick Taylor is gonna be the running back for San Francisco. He's like the fifth one on the year. If you are trying to open up some stuff and hope it gets 10 points, I think it's fine. Um, I mean, I think Shanahan's going to run him into the ground. Whether he does a lot is kind of another story. But he's 4,800, I believe, on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings he ends up 5,200. So kind of a punt play. I think it's fine. I think a lot of people are going to play that to get up to Jameer Gibbs and James Conner and like use him as the RB3, which is fine. You just hope he gets 10 points. But like I said, I'm going to lean into the Brock Purdy doubles, and I love George Kittle today. That's like I said, I think that's my way of trying to get different on the slate.
Yeah, and I made mention of this in the article this week. Yeah, but you can play Patrick Taylor, and he will probably pay off his salary just based on volume. This guy's a career like special teams guy, kind of practice squad guy. Bounced around the league. He started with the Packers, then he went to the Patriots practice squad for a while. Came back to the Packers last week or last year when they had injuries. Then they finally moved on. He's just not a good player, right? He's a good player, but he's not a good running back. So yeah, I mean, he can get there on volume. I just don't think he's not going to do anything special. He's not going to break the slate. So yeah, he'll probably pay off the salary, but I mean, don't go into this expecting that he's going to do like what Garendo did a couple weeks ago and, go up for a couple touchdowns and just, be the key to the slate this week. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like I said, I'm interested in the 49ers stuff. Brock Purdy ends up that middle tier quarterback that you're not like totally blowing the entire salary trying to get there. And I think this game environment's pretty fun too. So, like I said, Brock Purdy's probably going to be one of my most owned guys today. And I've already talked about Kittle. So, um, yeah, I think that's about it on this game.
Yeah. And it's like the IDP bets account. We want to make sure, thank you for joining us today. Before we wrap it up, we got one more game to go, but good luck in your playoffs. Good luck in your DFS. Good luck in your best ball. One more game for the FanDuel slate. That's the Sunday night game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys. 48-point total in this one. Tampa a 4-point road favorite in trying to eliminate the Cowboys from playoff contention. Implied totals of 26 for the Bucs and 22 for the Dallas Cowboys.
Another fun one. I wish this was on the regular slate and not just FanDuel only. I think
Yeah,
Baker
for
Mayfield came
sure.
out. Baker Mayfield came out this week and said he's more worried about Mike Evans' 1,000-yard season streak than Mike Evans is. I think he's going to pepper him. I think Mike Evans is an awesome tournament play today on FanDuel. I don't think anybody's going to play him. Uh, Baker's been cooking like this entire year. You put him with Mike Evans and then Jalen McMillan, the rookie who has quietly put on the last couple weeks. Um, where is? Well, I gotta get to the FanDuel one, not DraftKings. That'll help. But Baker Mayfield, 8,100. And then you can bring it back with like Rico Dowdle, who's had 4 straight games of 100 yards, who's looked pretty good. I don't know why it took almost 3 months to get Rico Dowdle full time work in this economy,
Mike
but
McCarthy. Mike
yeah.
McCarthy, baby.
But, on the other side, I think CD Lamb's really interesting too with Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush and CD Lamb going up against, and Ferguson going up against this Buccaneer secondary that is just decimated with injuries. I'll have to see who all comes back if anything. But I think this game could score a lot of points. So I would lean into the Baker stuff. I love Mike Evans this week, but I come every week and have him as a flag plant. I got to lay off of that, but I do think that Mike Evans has a big game. I think he's going to get to 1,000. I think Baker Mayfield is going to make it his one mission in life to get Mike Evans to the 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I think like CD Lamb is in play for the Cowboys. Love that. He's in a great spot. Um, Rico's in play just because I think he'll get volume and I think he'll get pass volume, but yeah, I don't love him running up against like the strength of this Tampa defense is in the middle of their line. So it's gonna be tough for him to get there on run volume, but yeah, I agree with you. I love Evans. Like Kate Otton's not going to play this week. That really doesn't affect Mike Evans that much, but I think it helps Rachaad White. I think that gets him some volume. So I think it's like viable to start like White and Bucky in the same lineup. I obviously it's not something I want to do, but I think it's viable because I think Rachaad White's going to take a lot of that Kate Otten not that Kate Otten gets a ton of touches, but if you add, what Rachaad White normally gets and some of Kate Otten's volume, I think that makes him an attractive option. So I think Bucky and Rachaad are both in play. I wouldn't start them in the same lineup, but I think they're both in play this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Especially Bucky Irving's been kind of hurt the last couple weeks. Been kind of iffy. Rachaad White kind of quietly gets here every week. He gets like a quiet 10 points and then like kind of moves on. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But Jalen McMillan, just real quick, catching a lot of touchdowns over the last couple weeks. If I can,
it's AN, not EN.
There we go. I'm just gonna do it this way.
There you go.
16, 19, like the last 2 weeks, 3 touchdowns. Sterling Shepard's kind of still around, but not that much. Jalen McMillan's finally starting to come on. I think he's viable as one of these cheap end wide receivers too to put some stuff in there. So, like I said, Baker's been slinging it. I've been a big fan of his all year. He's helped me win some money. So, and I like Mike Evans a lot too.
Yep, agree 100%. I agree. I think you're exactly right. I really wish this game was on the main slate so we had played on DK as well. That kind of sucks. All right, it is time for flag plants. Jameson, what's your number one?
My number one, the guy I talked about glowingly, I think it's George Kittle. I think George Kittle. We talked about this tight end slate where you get Bowers, you get McBride, you get Jonnu Smith. All these guys are in great spots, but so is George Kittle. George Kittle always has the opportunity to break the slate. I don't think anybody's going to play him. And honestly, think he can end up tight end 1 this week. So I'm going to go George Kittle. That, like I said earlier, that's my way of trying to get a little bit different without sacrificing, projection, opportunity costs, all that stuff. So I'm going to go George Kittle as my flag plant number 1.
It is the rare double tight end flag plant week because I'm going with Sam Laporta. Like I said, I think he picks up a lot of the David Montgomery slack. And I think he gives you some nice salary relief at the tight end position where you don't like, he's 1,800 less than Brock Bowers on DK, 1,500 less than McBride. It's really tough to pay up for those guys. And I think he gives you the same upside as those guys at a much lower price point. So double tight end flag plant this week. I'm going with Sam Laporta.
Yeah. That's a great one too. Like I said, you're getting a lot of salary savings, but still has the same, kind of ceiling as some of these other tight ends. So my second flag plant, I got a couple. I'm going to stick to running back here. I'm going to go Kyren Williams. I don't think anybody's going to play him. Going up against the Jets defense, get the 100 yards, 2 touchdowns while everybody's trying to play like Puka or Cooper Kupp. I don't think anybody's going to play him. He's got the same ceiling as all these other guys like James Conner, Gibbs. He's an awesome matchup. And I just getting some leverage off the field that are paying up that same price, but just going to James Conner. So I'm going to go Kyren. The other 2 guys that I also was contemplating just to give them out is Saquon and James Cook. I think trying to get different at running back this week. Like you can eat one of the chalk running backs and then try to get different elsewhere. I think is very viable.
Yeah, I love Kyren this week. I think he's a great play. My second flag plant is going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba. We talked about him. I think he's a great spot. It's a great matchup for him. He's just playing all the slots in this, or all his snaps in the slot. He's getting a ton of snaps. They're running a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. And if you look at they're buying week 10, if you go back to week 9 against the Rams, his DK point totals 40, 24.8, 19.7, 11.9, 19.6, 18.3. I mean, he's killing it. He's been one of the best receivers in the league over the past 6 weeks. And a great matchup for him. Great formation and stylistic matchup for him against the Vikings because I think they're going to have to throw short. They're going to have to throw quick. So I think he's the perfect wide receiver there. So he is my flag plant. Number 2, All right, Jameson, that's it for this week. Great show. Tell everybody where you're at and what you got going on.
Here every Sunday. We've got a couple weeks left for DFS. Thursdays, Rider Dynasty podcast will be off this week due to Christmas. Want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas out there. Be safe. Hope you win a lot of money. If you are in your semifinals and like your best ball final or semifinals as well, thinking about you today. Hope you pull through. It's a really exciting time of the year. Like I said last week, all the hard work that you put in, all the grind, comes down to this. Get some variance, get some goofy stuff happening. But I wish everybody good luck this week and also Merry Christmas as well.
Yeah, and you can find me at DJoelWirth on Twitter and on the Blue Sky. You can find my DFS Top Plays article on the IDP Plus website. And while you're there, check in. You can get a 20% off site-wide subscription with the promo code PROPS. So go to idpplus.com/membership and put in promo code PROPS. Get 20% off site-wide. It's the playoffs. You need all the tools, all the cool stuff that's going on there. So get access to those tools, the data, the IDP articles, and subscribe to Discord. So idpplus.com/membership, promo code PROPS for 20% off site-wide. That's it. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Again, I'm going to echo Jameson. Good luck in your playoffs. Good luck in your best balls. Good luck in your DFS lineups this week. We appreciate all of you for checking out the show all year long. We're not going away. We'll be here next week, but just happy holidays. We appreciate everyone for checking out the show. That's it for this week. Good luck in week 16. Happy holidays, and we will see you next week for week 17.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.